Good morning, Internet. It's SJU. It's Friday, and that means it's time to review an old but still clickable movie. I'm here with Spencer J. Gilbert. Hello, sir.
Gotcha. Made you click.
We tricked you with our hot takes as we head back into Pandora for a little chat about the movie Avatar. Spencer, I'm so sorry I made you do this with me. I yelled at you guys who's gonna watch this thing with me until you finally slowly put your hand up like your mom made you.
I believe I said I see you, Joe.
Yeah, you did. But it was sort of like one of those things like when you were a kid and your parents are like, no, you're gonna go to Joe's house and be his friend, and you're like, but he's weird.
Look, I was interested in going back. I haven't seen it. I think I saw it in theaters, obviously. And I was blown away in some respects and just blown in others. And then I saw it again on a plane or a laptop, the way it was meant to be seen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But this is now a 10-year-old movie, something like that.
Yeah. 2000.
So I think I've seen it 1.5 times in the last 10 years. So it was an interesting experience to go back. Happy we did it.
Yeah. I wanted to go back and watch because I haven't seen it since the theater. And then, our buddy Cameron did the essay for us that I thought was a very well argued movie fight, kind of style argument. But I was like, I should also watch the movie again and see if there's anything redeemable. So I guess we should get into that. Overall, man, what'd you think about going into Pandora?
Well, look, it holds up impressively as a spectacle, I think. The performance capture works for the most part, I think, especially on the faces of the actors and their avatars. I think they really, it's still amazing how kind of expressive and how well they can kind of transmit the emotion and capture performance. The bodies, I don't know. Seems a little, when they're wide shots and they're kind of mounting and dismounting their bird lovers or whatever. Sometimes it looks a little unnatural or
Skyrim-y. Your guys getting on a horse in Skyrim. Yeah,
a little cutscene-y. I think that look, the plot isn't breaking any crazy new ground, but it serves as a skeleton to explore this world, which is what I think James Cameron is mostly interested in. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like a pretense to go tour around Pandora. I think that the middle of this movie, and we can talk about pacing and plot and stuff further, but the middle of this movie in other films would just be a montage, like a training montage of okay, and he learns to do the things of the avatars, but it's the middle hour of the movie is just scene after scene of really introducing the spirituality, the animals, everything, and full-fledged scenes of him learning to do stuff. And then my big issue with this film, I think, is probably the same one that most people have consciously or unconsciously, is there is a movie star shaped hole at the center of this film. Sam Worthington, that's his name, right? Sam Worthington, the actor?
Yes. Yeah.
Is he's not given too much to work with, but that's the job of a movie star, even when your dialogue is corny, is somebody like Arnold or Stallone, or I'm not saying they would be good, but in their era, if this movie came out 20 years earlier, that's who it would be. Or take Keanu. If this was Keanu,
come on, the sky people are coming. Sorry,
is they need to make meals out of scraps as far as the dialogue that they're given, and he is just kind of a blank slate, but not in the charming Keanu way, just in a you're giving me nothing, Sam. The hero of this movie is a potato. There's just nothing radiating out of him, charisma or otherwise. So that's my big failing, I think, on the rewatch is your hero's not interesting, and you spend most of the time with him.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where I fell too, because I really want to try to take advantage of these little rewatches and stuff we're doing, so I can really kind of get to the bottom of what do I really think about this movie, or have I just the story around it has let me, form my opinion around it. So I really kind of went into this really hoping I could come out and be you know what? Not so bad. And it's rough. We'll get, again, we'll definitely get into pacing and stuff like that. I totally agree with you on the movie star issue. And so watching it, I think the best way I can talk about Sam Worthington is to talk about Stephen Lang, who is great in this movie. He knows exactly what movie he's in. He knows exactly what to do with the ridiculous colonial space marine dialogue he's given, which, by the way, almost every human has the same kind of space marine dialogue in this movie, and it doesn't work. Like, Sigourney Weaver's character should not be talking the same way that the Colonel talks, but she kind of does, at least in the beginning, and it just like feels weird and doesn't work. But I found myself gravitating to Stephen Lang so much that I was like, I think this should have been a horror movie where he's our protagonist and they're in a horrible forest that hates them. And they learn a lesson about mining.
It just shows you it's the power of charisma, because his character is no more three-dimensional than anybody else's. In fact, it's like as much a caricature as anyone. He's a stock trope. Is like the Marine that just wants to get him out of the way and like sips his coffee while they throw napalm on him and stuff like that. Like that's in every movie. There's no twist except he has like a claw mark on his head.
Which really isn't even that much of a twist.
But he's great. He's great at it. I really think like everybody does their part and kind of elevates what they're given. Stephen Lang does. I think Sigourney Weaver does for me. Michelle Rodriguez, like that's the right kind of casting for this movie. But the story is Jake Sully. And when you're spending so much time with Jake Sully and he's talking about like, I can't teach you because your cup is full. And he's like, I'm an empty cup. Like that's the only time I believed him was when he called himself.
He was like, you're right. I am an empty cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's a tough choice too. And also weighing in chat. And I want to see what you guys have to say too, because I know in the comments too, everyone's always like, I wish someone who had liked the movie came on, but sometimes you get what you get, and today you get Spencer and I that are very sort of middle of the road to maybe negative on it. But if you like the movie, I totally want to hear from you. But yeah, I think the extra challenge of the empty cup thing is that he's not just the protagonist, like he's also the narrator.
They also they tease him. They introduce him with like two very strong and interesting character choices. One is that his twin brother, I assume, just died, and that doesn't come up again at all.
No, not really.
And the other is the loss of his legs or the use of his legs, and that's kind of resolved immediately. I know that they promise him like we'll give you the surgery when you get back, but like that thread kind of dies out in the movie. It's like not even a question, whereas that should be like a real, or that temptation I feel like should have been played up and could have introduced more dynamic scenes for his character. But he's just like, nope, I'm with the Na'vi. This is great. And then what brother? What parents? Like he just seems like somebody who didn't have a life before this movie started. Like they just plopped him in, and he is a true audience stand-in, as in somebody who knows nothing about this and is on a roller coaster ride to Pandora with us.
Yeah, you've been given some facts. Again, it's that video game thing. Like it feels like you're playing Myst.
Don't besmirch the good name of Myst.
Myst, but like I know the protagonist of Myst is just me, I guess, and that's kind of how Avatar feels.
Walking in circles, moving levers up and down.
Trying to pick up the right book in the correct order. I think there's an easy win there. I think where the conflict is: do I want to be a whole Na'vi or do I want to be a whole human again? And like, what do I have to do to accomplish either, and which one's worth more? And they do kind of drop the thread because that should be the carrot that's dangled, right? Like the Colonel's like, oh, by the way, we got your stuff approved. Great job. And he's like, no, I have to keep going so I can be a warrior. Then he gets mad at a bulldozer. I don't know. It's the thing about this movie is that, it's not like James Cameron, like, half-baked an idea. Like they started working on this in like 2004 or something like that. Like he gave someone a job to just come up with the language, which I feel like is a really rad job to get. Like if James Cameron calls you one day and is like, all right, I don't know, day rate $400 a day, make up a blue people language.
Start babbling.
Yeah, start babbling, baby. Start babbling out those verbs. Let's see here.
That's just so clearly to me where his interest lies, is in the minutia and is the different locales, the floating miracle mountains and this forest and that grove. And
which I feel like then release a D&D book, man. And like let people play in the world of Avatar, because this movie does feel like, and I think the way you're describing it hits the nail on the head. Like it feels like Tolkien released the Silmarillion without releasing Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Where it's like, here's the stuff and the history, and look at how these flowers interact, and it's kind of like, okay.
And they do have like a bare bones plot. It's like it's a little tropey. We all know we've seen this before, like from Last of the Mohicans to what's it called, Fern Gully.
Fern Gully, yeah,
Pocahontas. Like this is a stock plot that, and that's fine to start there, but like you got to bring. Usually you want to bring something else, character choice wise or tone wise or something. And in here, what he's brought that's new to the table is the technology and the world he created. And your enjoyment of that movie is going to rise and fall on how much you care about that. Because otherwise you have seen the story before.
And it's interesting because like yesterday we were talking a little bit about like what Lucas did for the blockbuster, and like the technology that Cameron has brought, like, you can't sniff at it. Like he's legitimately made huge strides. Like because of Avatar, they've been able to make huge strides in how they shoot special effects and stuff like that. But it's interesting that like, I don't know, he doesn't get the same reputation maybe that Lucas did, because he wasn't able to wrap up the technology in the same way that like A New Hope and Empire and stuff were able to sort of, like gift wrap around the technology. We got a few Brotherhood in chat says, well, burn me at the stake, I won't change my mind. I like this movie.
It's fine.
Yeah, which is totally fine. Yeah.
What do you like about it? It would be my question, because I think there are plenty of things to like about this movie, and I hope we're not being 100% negative, because there are things we like about this movie. It's just hard for me when you don't care about the hero to care about the rest of it.
Yeah, it's tough. Because it's and you don't care about the hero, and like you said, it's like if we're just sticking to the tropes, then it's like, then I know the tropes, and I think it's a big gamble to just lean on, well, then I hope you think the visuals are cool, because I don't know, 50-50, I think Pandora is cool or not. Like, do you like damp looking wildlife or don't you? Like, it's kind of a coin toss, right? It's a big gamble with your very expensive movie. Something I was thinking about, look, as I was watching it, and Philip in chat sort of like shadows it. He says, I love the mechs in this movie. I want more movies with mechs. Spencer and I will agree with you. More mechs.
James Cameron's got your back, yeah. Yeah,
Cameron's got your back. Spencer and I want more mechs and more movies. Big Robot Jocks fans on the side of the camera. But I feel weird, just talking about visuals, I feel weird expecting more of James Cameron on the visual side of things. A, because he's a visual pioneer, and B, because we owe like the concept of Space Marine like to James Cameron. Like we don't have StarCraft without aliens. I don't have Warhammer 40K.
Your precious Warhammer 40K figurines.
Like, so it feels very stupid to be like, hey, guy that basically wrote the book on this imagery, do something new. But I found myself being like, man, I've seen all of these crafts before. Like I've seen the look of all these Marines before. I just wish it had looked. I
think the innovation was saved for the flora and the fauna. That was what was rendered in the most loving detail, and the human side of things was like, they're like private military corporation. It was trying to be like a world not too far from our own. That was just kind of an outgrowth of what we had already, just mining machines, but larger. We already have exoskeletons and stuff like that. This is not like, I'm usually against this criticism in film because it's such a nitpick, and it's usually so annoying of like critiquing like the battle strategy of the sides of like, well, if they're advancing in a pincher movement, like that's unrealistic. They should have just done this smart thing and ended the scene immediately.
Says I, West Point graduate.
West Point Online enthusiast. But I think in this movie, like it doesn't serve the plot. I think how this is resolved. And what I mean by that is like, what does Jake do that's special short of like rallying the clans together? And then they just fight the humans and win, which kind of to me is like, oh, they could have done that at any point, at any time. They could have just fought the humans and driven them away. What was so special about Jake, who lost a fight to a pack of dogs with a machine gun?
I think and again, it's these well-worn tropes, right? Because I think there's a lot of times in this movie where he leans on shorthand a lot. And I think what we're meant to just walk away with is like, oh, well, his knowledge of the humans and the marine technology as a marine himself taught them like how to sort of fight to get around armor and stuff like that. But we're also never shown that, which I feel like we're kind of robbed of an interesting moment where the tables are almost turned and what's the bully Navi's name? I can't remember. But, it's like now that guy's struggling to like infiltrate an APC they stole or something while Jake laughs, so I think we missed like sort of a fun opportunity there because the tropes are there. So like we can just kind of lean on them like, oh, well, I've seen these movies before. Tom Cruise teaches Ken Watanabe tactics to avoid guns off camera. And then we see him happen in Last Samurai, stuff like that. But we missed some fun scenes that would make us care about the characters on screen.
Yeah. Or even just to continue what I think his like central metaphor was like, this is a colonial power versus an indigenous people. And like, we have plenty of examples of indigenous people like throwing off the yoke of colonial powers and like driving them back. But it's not like everybody charge into the guns.
Yes.
If you're going to take your Vietnam metaphors or pick your battle of the last 200 years, it's like, it's guerrilla warfare, and then it's like you find the weaknesses in the human side and exploit them. And I just feel like that it was kind of unsatisfying and even uncreative to just have have the animals charge at the humans. But this time it works.
And again, I think it's another weird like they don't do anything with Jake thing where I think him and the Colonel talk about being recon Marines. Like they talk about being like highly specialized soldiers at the beginning, and I feel like nowhere in that look, I've never been to boot camp, but I feel like nowhere in that manual at this point is there like you and your bugler charge directly at the cannons. Like I feel like that's probably not the way Marines are going to be fighting at that point in the future. But yeah, I agree. It's he doesn't really accomplish a whole lot more than get lucky because the tree decides to help. Because again, you're right, he just charges everybody at the guns.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He literally has God on his side. Like their literal God is like, and I'll bring the animals and gets them to do it. But why didn't he do that or she do that earlier? Come on. Yeah.
The tree could have. Because the tree doesn't pick sides. Spencer. Adam asks, does anyone feel like movies that came out after Avatar, like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Black Panther, did a better job on exploring those same anti-colonial messages? Hey, it's me and Spencer, your go-to source for talking about anti-colonial messages. I think probably yes with Black Panther, because I sort of have some weird thoughts, and we talk about it a little bit with like when we watch Zootopia. I think movies that stick with people to talk about their appropriate colonial messages will always work better, because I feel like the moment you switch out an indigenous people with like a stand-in, whether it's the
separate species,
or like species, they get into it in like the D&D world with like different fantasy races and stuff too, where it's like the moment you start using those as stand-ins, like that's why Bright fell apart, because their big idea was like, what if orcs were Mexicans? And it's like, well, no, Mexicans are Mexican. You can tell a story about like what happens to this Latino cop without being like, but what if orcs? I think you just start running into so many weird walls like the moment you start using stand-ins.
But yeah, I will say, I forget the commenter's name, but I do think that the Apes trilogy is a fantastic exploration of the same thing and was able to pull it off, on a convincing visual level, a convincing story level, and like have really compelling characters with dual allegiances, and you understood that, you felt their dual allegiances more so than this one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think let's talk about the Na'vi a little bit, because I was thinking about sort of like the colonial stand-in thing through this, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to just yell Dances with Wolves at this movie, because it's not just Dances with Wolves that does this trope. Like, it's a lot of movies. But I think the like Native American stand-in thing is so strong with the Na'vi. Like, I wish James Cameron had just like made them crazy weird. Like, get rid of every semblance of human stand-in, and I don't know, man. Make them like weird little snuffleupagus monsters.
I don't think you need to change them visually so much, but you got to change them more so than they have. I agree with you there, because I think that like if their society and their psyche is premised on the fact that like they can literally dissolve their sense of self and completely merge with each other, with plants, with the entire world around them, like you'd think they'd be a little more different. Whereas they just seem like, kind of like hunter-gatherers who have this weird ponytail fetish. But I think that like you would, taking that to its conclusion, like they would be a vastly different, I mean, their language would be different. Like they probably wouldn't have like personal pronouns and stuff like that. Like they would just be this kind of more.
They might not even talk.
Yeah, why would they even have to talk? It's just
ponytail chat. Yeah,
it didn't follow through on that idea that they were so fully connected to everything else that like the boundaries where someone began, someone ended, like would dissolve. That's interesting. But like reflect that in either the way they look or the way they think and speak and stuff like that. But they just seem like blue people.
Yeah, because I get to the point now where I get real nitpicky about it, but like. Again, that's an interesting thread, like the idea that they're all like truly interconnected and stuff like that. And I would have so much rather followed that, but he doesn't. Like, they don't even really like follow that well, because it's like they're all interconnected, and look at they talk about the biology, and it's all like flowing through each other. But like when they have to like pair with their pterodactyl, they have to beat the shit out of it first, and and it's like. Plugging your ponytail into something and then it goes limp and you going like you're mine is like weirdly antithetical to the rest of the culture they made up. That's how I sort of felt anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's the thing about the just the personalities of them and where the different beliefs may lie is like it's not explored, because we only get to know Neytiri, who I thought was again like a stock character but well played. And well acted, to the point where like you empathized, you sympathized, you understood. Everyone else gets like three lines, like all of the Na'vi. Like her mom and dad, they say a few things, mostly like procedural, like go or no, or you have to lie here to get the tree juice or whatever. They're not really revealing character aside from like, oh, he's the stern chieftain, she's the wise shaman. Like
they're revealing stuff, sort of like what you were saying earlier. Like they're revealing the stuff he wants to show you.
Yeah, like we were supposed to spend all this time among the Na'vi, and we did, but it was really just like, here's how we get our food, here's how we get our horses. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that we didn't explore that deeply enough. Save it for Avatar 2, I say.
Oh, it's Avatar 2 through 5, man. And look, on that note, thank you guys for watching the show. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't hit like, take a second and do it right now. If you don't mind, that'd be awesome. If you do, I see you. All of our stuff right now is in support of Direct Relief. They're an organization that's coordinating with public health authorities, nonprofits in the U.S., China, and globally to provide essential medical items to people on the front lines fighting COVID-19. So there's a link in the description to check them out. Please share that around. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Twitter, whatever. There's also a lot of links in the description to find out how you can get involved with and learn more about Black Lives Matter. And we ask that you do that, to take some time today and do some learn how you can get involved. I spent the week sad that I learned about Tulsa from a comic book show. I have a lot of reading to do and a lot of learning to do. That said, let's go back to Pandora, baby. Let's keep this Pandora train going, Spencer J. Gilbert. let's talk a little bit about the pacing, because an hour in, I was so tired and realized I had. At the point where they first come in and burn out those trees, I was just like, okay, finally, like the third act fight is starting. And then I realized that no, that was not indeed the third act fight at all. And I felt so exhausted.
I did notice that when they blow up the heart tree, which is different from the soul tree, I looked at the timeline and saw that there was an hour left and thought, oh, whoa, okay, what are they going to do now? And the answer was like fight each other. They're all going to fight.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Yeah, it was, and look, it's not the longest movie in the world, right? Dances with Wolves is 4.5 hours long. It's 4.5 hours long. But I think the difference is, and I'm not talking about Dances with Wolves as if it's some sort of like untouchable masterpiece, but since these movies are kind of like linked, I'm going to use them as my comparison. I think Dances with Wolves like knows how to pace itself, is able to spend time with slightly more fleshed out characters, and it also has a score that does a lot of heavy lifting for it. Like its score won the Academy Award, and it can carry you along. Like I think music can make a huge difference in what feels like 4 hours and what feels like 2 hours. And the Avatar score isn't great. Like I never really notice it until I do, and then I'm kind of like, "What are you guys doing?" And it feels kind of like maybe Halo placeholder music at times.
It was Halo-y, yeah.
Yeah, a little Halo-y. Okay, come here. Stop. Okay, sorry. My cat's chewing on the internet cord because I think she wants to die, Spencer. I think she actually wants to die.
Or she wants the show to end.
She's like, I don't want to talk about Navi.
But yeah, I happened across Aristotle's 6 elements of drama. And these are in order of importance.
And he wrote Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, he wrote Empire and Boondock Saints. So it goes plot, character, theme, dialogue, music / rhythm, which I think might mean pacing, and spectacle. So, Avatar really knocks the tip of the pyramid, the spectacle. Mm-hmm. That's great. But the foundation that it all rests on is it's just hollow. It's a hollow movie. I think Scorsese, when he talked about Marvel movies being theme park rides, maybe he saw Avatar, or
thought it was a Guardians movie.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. It's like you're those black box with a screen in front of you rides at like Universal Studios or whatever, where like your seat moves, your seat rumbles, and they blow compressed air in your face.
Harry Potter's like, come on to the Quidditch.
Yeah, and that's because like we can't overlook the fact that this was designed to be a 3D film first and foremost, and like they're relying on you connecting to it because of the literal immersion of having Navi butt flying right past your face. So it's hard to judge it without that factor in, because I think that's doing so much of the lifting for what people.
And that said, when I saw this movie in the theater, I walked out and was like, "Holy shit!" And then my buddy who saw it, his glasses were broken, so he just had like a migraine and was really pissed at the movie. But yeah, I walked out of it like, holy hell, that was amazing. We'll put a pin in the 3D of it all, because I think the one place where I'll push back a little bit on spectacle sort of being the thing, the solid thing, was I was sort of watching the movie and I was so looking forward to the third act because I was like, okay, this will deliver. This will at least look really cool. And it's shot so like detached. I was like watching the aerial battles and they're all pretty much wide shots. You never really get any sense of danger or stakes or anything like that the way that, and look, I'm not asking Avatar to be Saving Private Ryan or, something like that. But, you look, if we're going to talk about two armies just running at each other, that's a movie that makes it feel horrifying and scary. And whereas Avatar, the camera's just kind of zipping around and showing you graphics run at each other.
Yeah, I did get that sense when they blew up the home tree that was a more well done sequence of where you're getting the scale and it's putting you in the loincloths of the avatars as their home is collapsing around them, and it was like truly apocalyptic. And you're right. The third act fight of bird versus helicopter or whatever is largely
one of the great conflicts in storytelling.
It's largely bloodless. I don't mean that just like, oh, there's no blood. It just means it just wasn't very visceral. And obviously you haven't met many other avatars. So how sad are you when these nameless bloonies go down?
Well, and even not even just knowing about them, but the last fight in Top Gun. I don't know much about any of the pilots other than Maverick. I know everyone else's goofy call sign at that point, and that's about it. Because the only other person is I know Maverick, I know Iceman. The only other person I really know and care about died, so he's gone. So literally, the guy in his seat's at a disadvantage because I only know him as guy I like's replacement in the third act. So I don't know anything about any of them.
Sundown or Jester?
No, it's not Sundown. I think it's Merlin.
Viper? Okay. Yeah. Anyways.
No. Viper is. Oh shoot! Okay. You're not helping. You just see this paw in the. Yeah. It's son of a. But anyway, it's just planes being piloted by guys I don't really know. But just the way it's shot and everything, it feels visceral, and I feel like I'm in the middle of it. I feel caught up in it.
I did enjoy the Stephen Lang versus Neytiri on a battle cat versus Jake Sully.
That was fun.
Three-way showdown.
There is something very satisfying about a point blank range giant arrow to the chest.
Two of them. Yeah, I appreciated the second one. And then triumphant hissing. A lot of that.
That was a good fight. Yeah, I'm just looking for things that I like because I feel like I've been a very negative Nancy this whole time, and I didn't mean to. The horrifying thing that I wrote, because I don't actually want this in any world, but I did write, since it relies so heavily on shorthand, would this have been more well received if it was James Cameron's Star Wars movie and it was about the Empire mining on Kashyyyk and the Wookiees fighting?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to go Ewok, but Wookiees works too.
Yeah, just Wookiees on giant birds jumping at AT-ATs. I don't actually want everything to be Star Wars, so I felt bad that I wrote that, but I did. Let's see what Chad has to say, because there's some Avatar defenders, and I appreciate them. Powell says Avatar is better than anything in the Star Wars universe. All right.
Yeah, I mean, in what respect?
Yeah.
And which Star Wars?
Because some of them I might agree. Jennifer, a beautiful movie I've never had the urge to revisit. I think that's my wife's opinion too, is that it looks very pretty and she'll put it on in the background. Brotherhood explains he went into a little depth. It's a visual spectacle, and he's a sucker for an overload of cheesiness and sentimentality, which he definitely has. They def love those Na'vi.
Yeah, and I mean, even again, not to be go back to the negative, but it's even on a dialogue level, the dialogue is quote a line from Avatar beyond "I see you" and "unobtainium." The lines are, you just want something snappier from Sigourney Weaver at least.
Which unobtainium, I have retracted my criticism because that's a real term.
Okay. Yeah, no, I remember that from Cameron's video. And yeah, Giovanni Ribisi always plays a great scumbag.
He's great.
Yeah, in what little he's given, but it's it's still just generic executive dialogue of I love this putter, I play golf, I'm an asshole. Give it a little bit of a twist, just a little something extra. It's too bad, but again, I just don't think that's where the focus was. This is not a movie about people or really about the Na'vi. This is a movie about the planet of Pandora, and you're on a star tour of Pandora. Yeah,
and again, it's interesting that it feels so light, because I actually got politely corrected. Michael Boyd in the chat, not 2004. He started working on this in '94. So this has been in his head for ages, and but I think you're right. I think what was in his head was how do these trees react, and what does this bush do, and what's that cat look like, and stuff like
Didn't
that.
he also have like 500 pages for Alita Battle Angel that he dropped on Robert Rodriguez?
Robert Rodriguez, yeah.
So he's just creating worlds at the bottom of the ocean. This guy's
building stuff up, man. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I really hope that he feels like his work is done to an extent, and in the sequels, like he can now dig in deep. To go back to Star Wars, much like although A New Hope managed to introduce you to great characters too, but like Empire was able to dig in and explore those relationships and deepen them and twist them. I hope he can find a way to do that in Avatars 2 through 7.
You know what I would love to see is James Cameron's room full of like notebooks that he put down and didn't pick back up. Like that spiral notebook you have where you're like have like half a story written in it and then you forget about it. I want to see James Cameron's like vault of threads he means to pick up later.
Yeah, he's got like 700 pages on like, Grimace or the other Happy Meal gang.
I would absolutely watch James Cameron's movie about Grimace. That would be amazing. Samuel McKay says, just got to turn that brain off and enjoy the blue people and the visuals.
Sure.
Yeah, you do. But you know what? Honestly, I really tried to this time and I still like kind of didn't, which made me sad because I really wanted to. I wanted more Stephen Lang. More Stephen Lang at every shot. I don't know, Spencer, do you have any closing feelings? I mean, you gave me Aristotle. I don't know what more you can really do.
Gosh, no. I mean, it is... it's just a lot, it's a lot of training montage, not training montage. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of, hey, Jake Sully, airhead moron, let's introduce you to the world of humanity and the world of science and the project here. And then he goes to the Na'vi and it's like, hey, let's introduce you to the world of Na'vi and how we do things and how things work over here. And we fight and then it ends. It's a movie that to me kind of resists a deeper analysis because I don't really think there's much to analyze, but I could be wrong. Please prove me wrong. Link me to your biggest, your long reads, your Avatar deep thoughts and stuff like that.
I will watch them. Tweet them at us. I will look at that stuff. I am always fascinated to sort of see what other people see and stuff I don't. Like, Dave Filoni's like 20-minute breakdown of that Phantom Menace fight. I don't agree with it at all, but I certainly didn't see that in the fight. But I was fascinated listening to it, and I don't think he's a weird moron for saying it. Yeah.
So I think that while this was like, this was an enjoyable but overlong experience for me that is akin to going on, the Back to the Future ride at Universal Studios, but for 3 hours. So I just wanted to get off by the end, and it felt a little shook up and nauseous, but there were times when I really liked it. Yeah. So
what do the sequels need to sort of like write the core? This is what we'll leave on, is talking what the sequels need to do to sort of like fix.
They need a compelling protagonist with a need and a want and things that pull them in different directions, and you get to see them make choices and grow or refuse to grow based on what's happening around them, rather than like the college tour guide where like the Navi's walking backwards and saying like, over here we have the soul tree and over here we have the heart tree, and he's just going, cool.
I'm really, and the first time they did that where he's like in the Avatar body, there were like 40 of them on a training course.
Yeah, they were hooping. They were like going on the jungle gym. It was.
I've got my miscellaneous notes open, and I've got my I call that the what will our tag joke for the Honest Trailer be? Like the stuff that's not going to go anywhere else in the piece, but could be a fun little quick joke. I think what I'm hoping for the sequel is that now that he's a Na'vi, we don't have a need for the webcam monologues. And I'm really hoping they don't somehow try to reintroduce that, because I think that more than anything handicapped the pace and flow of the movie. Because sometimes it was even redundant. He would do a long webcam monologue about being like, oh, I'm getting lost in it. I don't even know who I am anymore. And as he was doing it, I was writing like, show, don't tell me. Like, literally tell me to camera, like, show me. And then literally in the next scene, he's like sitting like this, and the colonel comes to talk to him, and he's like, The Colonel's like, you ain't been in too deep anymore, have you? And like the way he looks at him is like, you're like, yes, he has. He doesn't know who he is anymore. And it's like, you did it twice. Why'd you do it twice? So yeah, no more. Hey YouTube, it's me, Jake Sully, here on Pandora. That is my hope for the sequels.
Yeah, or go, you know what? Screw it. Just go balls to the wall. Just have it be like Beast Wars. You know, you introduce each cool animal with like a Power Ranger style introduction of them just like flying out of different volcanoes, and then you introduce all the new mechs, and you say, "We're gonna fight for your right to party." And then you send them all at each other. You know, like Aliens compared to Alien.
Yeah. And then it never leaves theaters, because I would go see that just like once a week. That would be fun. Yeah, the $1 billion stunt rock. I will go see $1 billion stunt rock. And if you've never seen the movie Stunt Rock, look it up on YouTube. It's very worth it. Spencer J. Gilbert, thanks for talking about
the avatar of its day. Yes, anytime, Joe.
Oh no, yeah, I know that if I need anyone to see me, I can always call on you, and you will see me. And now, yeah, okay. She's gonna put her tail in my ponytail.
Oh dear.
Something, and we'll see.
Oh, that's our show. All right, it's gonna get weird.
Bye.